An early morning crash turns deadly. That crash caused chaos on the interstate, backing up traffic and shutting down part of I-75 for hours. We're glad you're watching WKYT News at noon. I'm Kristen Kennedy.
I'm Victor Puente. Traffic is moving again on I-75 as police investigate that crash. WKYT's Lucy Bryson was live on scene throughout the morning following that investigation. She brings us the latest in our top story at noon.
One person is dead and another vehicle of people is injured after runaway trailer tires struck two vehicles on I-75 early Tuesday morning.
From what we've investigated so far with our collision reconstruction unit, they believe that a tractor trailer lost two tires going northbound. Those tires entered the southbound lane and impacted with the SUV and the semi-truck.
Officials tell us one tire hit a gray SUV, injuring at least two people inside. The other hit the windshield of a semi-truck, killing the driver. The tractor-trailer driver hasn't been located. We asked Captain Joshua Bedson of the Scott County Sheriff's Department if he knew if those runaway tires were in use at the time or if they were spares attached to the vehicle before they came off. He didn't have much clarification.
But my understanding is the tires left the trailer of a vehicle. I don't even know if the semi-truck driver knew about it at the time.
Deputies were sent out to shut down the road so they could investigate. There, another collision happened, this time involving one of their deputies.
We had a vehicle not stop, collide with one of our deputies' cruisers. He was not in the vehicle. He was struck by his own vehicle while outside of it. He is okay.
Multiple crashes on the roadways left the interstate shut down for hours. It's since reopened. We do know that the occupants inside of the gray SUV are sustaining injuries, but we do not know the extent of what those injuries are. For now in Scott County, I'm Lucy Bryson, WKYT.
The Scott County Sheriff's Department is withholding the name of the victim driving that semi until their family has been contacted.